Greetings, everyone. So, this really cool, stylized puzzle platformer meets dark comedy meets just fucked up weird shit came out back on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 several years back. It's funny, weird, challenging, fun, and oozing with this charm that I can only describe as Persona mixed with jazz. Oh wait. So it sorta, kinda became a cult classic over time. And now skip ahead to these last few weeks, and that same amazing game has just been announced to be remastered for the PlayStation 4, with a very special edition. You see, the original game, you had a core choice of what ending you would get primarily upon choosing which of the two females in your life you will, I guess, end up dating / marrying / just being with. And those two choices are a blonde girl named Catherine, who is your current girlfriend, and perhaps wife-to-be, but you're not quite sure about committing to, and this young cutie blonde named Catherine, who seems to be holding some sort of odd, supernatural power over you. And now with this remaster, they're going to be adding a third girl to the mix, one by the name of Rin. So this all seems pretty swell, a cool cult classic coming to a new audience, with an additional content for old fans to enjoy. But of course, we can't have nice things anymore, can we? Or at least not without people starting a controversy about it. Let me elaborate on that a bit. So, here's the rub of it all. The third girl by the trailer seems to hint at her being a trans. Well, maybe. See, the thing is, by the trailer, we can't really discern if this is true or not. I mean, it hints heavily towards it, but it could also just sort of be a red herring. In the trailer, Ren is seen naked, and we see our protagonist, Vincent Brooks, reacts in a shocked and crazy way when he stares at her crotch. Now, it's easy to assume that what he's looking at is a ding-dong. But then again, Vincent reacts this same way with everything, be it waking up in bed next to some strange woman, the odd situations he ends up dealing with his daily life, or the crazy nightmares that he has to traverse during the night. And really just in general, he's a pretty nervous and overdramatic guy in general. So with that logic, it could be just a naked girl in his house, and he's freaking out as usual. Or, if you want to get more creepy, imagine if it's some sort of creepy eyeball or something down there, or some freaky shit from his nightmares. But either way, we can't know for sure until more details are revealed, or until the game just comes out. However, for the sake of the video and the argument, let's just assume that this girl is actually a guy. Well, most people who played the original game would know that this would be just another crazy, sexual, and awkward situation for Vincent to go through, and a pretty crazy rabbit hole if you so choose to follow him or her or whatever you want to refer to it as your love interest. However, that is not of course what plenty of game journalists such as Kotaku and Polygon had to say about it. So let's head over to Kotaku, cause that's really where a lot of the conversation about this game and the controversy about it supposedly started. So the title of the article reads, "Catherine Remake is already starting controversy." I would please ask everyone to remember that title. Catherine Remake is already starting controversy. It'll come in handy later. They give a link to the trailer and then present their first bit of evidence towards this trailer upsetting people. So, there's a trailer for the Catherine remake, and it looks like the third romance option is going to be a trans woman who Vincent will be horrified about having slept with. Ugh. Yep, of course this is happening. So right off the bat, we can see that this blue-haired woman is rather upset about Vincent being horrified by Ren being trans, most notably if he slept with him. She then goes on to say, further allusion to Ren being a trans woman with a penis, the teaser site for the game has a huge image of her lifting her dress, fading before we see the crotch. Everything here screams trans woman route. Then finally in an update it says the following. This is a trailer and not the final game, but considering the original Catherine's poor track record with trans representation, using a pre-transition name for a character in the credits and a manual, and giving a male-only nightmares to a trans woman character, I'm not holding my breath that this new romance will be handled tastefully. I'd love to be proven wrong, but their track record doesn't fill me with hope. So, let's cut this down piece by piece, shall we? Miss Laura is upset about Vincent being freaked out at a trans who he probs totally slept with while he was in his nightmare land. And furthermore, upset that the game might, or according to her, is going to make fun or misrepresent trans people, as according to her, the game had a bad track record before. Interesting. Well, first off, like I pointed out earlier, Vincent reacts the same way towards everything, so on that basic level, he's not really being any more shocked or disgusted at Ren's dick than with anything else that he experienced during that crazy week. Number 2, I mean, come on, with the fact that he has a girlfriend and weird shit keeps happening to him all week, is it really fucking out there that he might react that way? I mean, speaking purely for myself, just for myself, if I woke up next to some girl I barely or maybe didn't know at all, who just so happened to have a dick, who I didn't even remember having sex with, well, I really can't say I would find myself in that situation. But if I was, I would be pretty surprised. Shocked? Perhaps disgusted. I don't feel that these words are misused in that context. And not in the context for Vincent either. Number 3. I find that this whole thing leads into that awful argument that just cause that girl has a dick, which is kind of an oxymoron, but whatevs, that men should want to sleep with them all the same. We all got our preferences, and those preferences are not wrong. So Vincent, he don't like wieners. And if he don't like wieners, then he shouldn't be forced to like wieners just because it looks like a girl for the most part, but it's got a dick. Sex-wise, it's still biologically a guy. People have preferences, whether they like the same sex or the opposite. I don't feel like they should be demonized just for that simple fact. Finally, I am so tired of the whole representation thing. Let me give you guys a huge, massive, gigantic tip. Representation leads to bad characterization. See, when you create a character, be they straight, gay, male, female, or a fucking squid from the planet of Riptonia, it doesn't matter. You need to let them be a character. Let them develop. Let them have deeply personal issues, or struggles, or have responsibilities, or striving goals, flaws, or all of the above. And ultimately, if you work really hard at this, you will have a character that many, not all, but at least some, may find deeply relatable. And if they don't find them relatable, they will still find them interesting. Need proof? Well, how about the Joker from The Dark Knight? I know he is used as the example all the time, but why do so many people find him interesting? And why are there enough people that understand him, or even slightly relate with him, when he is so clearly a bad guy? Because he's well written, because he's interesting, and because ultimately, no matter what the goals are, or whether we're talking about the main protagonist, the villain, or any other character to the side, making them a character and making them interesting first is what will make them grow and what will have people either relate with them or find them interesting. Because the best sorts of characters aren't always the characters we relate to. Sometimes it's the characters that make us question our own virtues, our own sense of selves, and our own personal philosophies. Now, contrast that with a writer saying, I want this character to represent a certain race, sexuality, or culture of people. Well, while that may appease some SJWs who want everything to be exclusively exclusive, and now you're in a bit of a pickle. Now, if that character does something bad, you're shitting on that group. If they make a dumb mistake, you're shitting on that group. And to some, for them to have a fucking flaw at all is to shit on those people. Do you see that sort of makes a boring character? That's why it's important to let a character stand on their own merits. And while the case can be made for characters who possibly represent a figure of the past, or maybe are an allegory, perhaps that could work, but their nuance never comes exclusively from their allegorical nature. It's still because they're an interesting character, no matter what they personally might represent. You see how representation really means fucking nothing in the long scheme of things. So, what this was leading up to is these characters represent no one but themselves. And to try to make the argument otherwise is picking at clouds, making an issue over something that doesn't exist. I feel it's one of those stupid things, like every time there's a character of a certain sexuality or a race and they do something stupid or they're evil, whatever else, oh, that's racist or that's sexist or that's homophobic or whatever else. Okay, see, that's an issue. Not every single character, because they might have the same shade of skin as you, or they might like the same sort of sex as you, or they might like the same hobby as you, they don't represent you. And quite frankly, I find it extremely narcissistic to think that every single character is written around your fucking existence. Now, if you're a perceptive fellow, you might have noticed something about Miss Laura. Let's just go over to her Twitter account. Oh, well, look at that there. Works for Kotaku. It would seem that this title was, well, to say the least, rather misleading. It would seem that this controversy that Catherine is having just might have been instigated and put out by none other than you. Rather dishonest, cheap, and vapid of you to make up a controversy for views. But then again, it is Kotaku after all. The article goes on to inflate itself more by showing tweets in response to that tweet, like this gem. I was gonna play Catherine, but now I'm finding out it treats trans character like shit, and even dead names her? No thanks. Fuck you, Atlas. That's funny. I don't remember the trailer, which is all we have to go by the way. Treating her like shit? Seems like someone was never gonna play it at all, and just wanted the virtue signal. Just like this whole article. How fun. In a perfect world, the new Catherine game would not only have a trans love interest, but one that's written well, fully accepted, never dead named, and couldn't be misinterpreted as a trans panic scenario. But well, here we are. Huh, I didn't know you could, read into the future. See, in a perfect world, people would stop overreacting to shit, making issues out of nothing, stopped expecting every game, film, or company to represent your own personal philosophy, and by extension you, and maybe, just maybe, people could get the fuck over themselves. But it's not a perfect world, is it? I guess we're all just gonna have to live in it together. I think you get the point. You know, I think I remember the same bunch of people bitching about Persona 5 not having an LGBT relationship option, despite the creator simply not wanting that and wanted the pro tag to be straight. But then, I don't think those people played the game either. I would go over to the Polygon article, since they seem to be the cesspool that poisons game journalism, along with just about every other corner of it right now. But they seem to pretty much regurgitate the same stuff the Kotaku article talked about, even quoting Laura. Likes her personal opinion now is enough to shape the whole controversy. Pretty silly if you ask me. In the end, this is sort of the same shit, different game at this point, but I suppose I felt compelled to make this video because I'm just so sick of it. Not to mention this sort of crap spreads and people get the wrong idea about these games, only listening to the message that these lying journalists spew out, and I think it's pretty sad. Catherine isn't a game about making fun of trans. Hell, it's not even a game that's trying to be overly controversial. It's a game about commitment, if you really want to get down to the roots of it. About a character making a choice about who he wants to be. If he can commit to his girlfriend, who is rather controlling of him, or will he run off with the next girl, who is kind of, well, kinky to say the least. And whether Rin is trans, a girl, or a fucking tentacle monster, I don't really think it's gonna matter, because the game's not worried about representation, but instead, characterization. And really freaky deaky nightmare fuel. I mean, have you even seen this shit? That's all for now. For those few who have subscribed, I'm sorry for the long hiatus. I've been busy working on my novel and other personal stuff, but rest assured I have several scripts ready and some upcoming videos over the next couple months, including some more experimental stuff that I'm really excited to share with you guys. So, until next time, this is Dylan the Night Owl, flying off.